Welcome to Behind the Crown podcast with your hosts, Brian Hudson and Josh Griffin. Sit back and enjoy these great stories and memories of the Kingsmen Quartet.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Crown podcast with your hosts, Brian Hudson and Josh Griffin. And tonight we have a very special guest with us as well. And I tell you what, a great vocalist as well, too. I won't go any further until we get him introduced, but a great guy. Go ahead, Brian, and let's kick it off. Introduce who our guest is, please, sir.
I can do that. This young man, and I will give you the young part. You can pay me later. This young man is a baritone. He's an MC, SGMA board member, promoter, writer. How about it for a big hand for Alan Kendall? How about it, Alan? Good to see you, man.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yes.
Well, I tell you what, we realize your daughter's at a ball game tonight, and I know how vitally important those things are when you're home just a couple days a week. I've been there, done that.
Oh, it's fine. I was going to sit in here and do this, and because she's actually out of practice.
Okay, got you.
So
okay,
it works out good.
It worked out great. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you what Elizabeth Taylor told her seventh husband. We're not going to keep you long, so you can you can plan on that.
That joke never gets old. All right.
Yeah, it never gets old. Now, my wife says, please don't tell that Elizabeth Taylor thing anymore. But you know what? If it works, it works. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Oh goodness.
Well, Alan, everybody knows you from the Kingsmen. You've been with the Kingsmen since 2018. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, so give our listener. Well, first of all, I'm not sure if you're aware of the podcast. We have dedicated to Behind the Crown podcast to the Kingsmen, to the legacy of the Kingsmen, to the guys that were a part of the group and are still a part of the group, songs and the stories behind the songs. And so that's kind of what we're doing. And we want to honor you tonight and ask you, like I said, everybody knows you from your years of the Kingsmen already, but you've had a long history before you ever got on the Kingsmen bus.
Yeah. Yes. I kind of go back to the late 2000s. Started with the Melody Boys Quartet out of Little Rock, Arkansas. About Gerald and I were talking recently 17 years ago. Hard to believe.
Wow.
And I was there for about a year and a half or so, and then I got married. My wife's from Georgia. I'm from Georgia, so I moved back home to Georgia and wanted to start our family. So I spent about 8 years doing part-time regional kind of stuff, and enjoyed that. But as things happen sometimes, we change directions. The Lord made it clear that I needed to be back out here on a full-time capacity, be more focused. So it's back in 2018. Door open to come with the Kingsmen. The last thing I ever would have imagined happening to. But and to be here 7 years now, and to have to get to even be a spokesman for the group blows my mind still to this day. All I can say is I hope I honor it, and I hope I have a credit to it.
Well, from a Kingsman alumni to you, I will say you're doing a great job at that. Not only emceeing, but you're kind of the since Ray has stepped off the bus a lot of times. He's not traveling all the time. Ray Dean Reese. You're the real face of the group right now to a degree, and I think you're honoring the Kingsman name. And Josh wanted to ask. Go ahead and ask your question, Josh.
Yeah. Speaking with joining the Kingsmen, how did the audition process go? How did that come about?
Really, I was one of the last ones to audition for the position because I was doing solo work, singing with a regional group at the time, and was keeping quite busy with that. But I don't know, I just felt that pushing. Of course, that was the Lord telling me I need to try this out. And my wife and I were talking about it, and I said, Kings have an opening. At the time, there was opening at the lead and the baritone.
That's right. That's right.
And just by coincidence, not by not anything that really happened, but I said, what would you think about me doing that? She said, well, it's a little scary to think about you going back out on the road full time. but you know what? She says, I believe in you. Totally know that this is your passion. This is what you know, this is what you kind of do best, and that you love this. That I believe in you. You can do this. I can do this. That she said, go.
Yeah.
So I
That's
contacted Chris Jenkins
okay.
and said I'd like to throw my name in the hat, whichever position. He said the lead position has just been filled this week, which was
Okay.
Chris Bryant.
Right. Okay.
And I said, well, I as high as y'all sing, that might be a relief right there. I said,
Yeah, that's true.
I'd like to try out for the baritone spot.
Yeah.
And so the following week, I believe, um, I went and filled the whole weekend with guys, or 4 days, and and basically the first thing we did was we sang during sound check.
Okay.
Ray and Brandon sat out in the front of the sanctuary, and the three of us, me, Chris, sang on stage. First thing we sang was "I Will Rise Up from My Grave,"
Okay.
and so Ray was just kind of leaning up on the pew in front of him,
Yeah.
really intently focused, listening to us.
Yeah.
And when we hit that big
Yeah.
chorus,
Yeah.
Ray all of a sudden just throws his fist in the air like a touchdown,
Wow.
and then leans back and just props up like he's relaxing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we finished, I thought to myself, well, I'm not sure, but I think that may mean I have the job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I couldn't make it the following week. They had one more audition that they had, and then I went back the week after and they offered. So
Wow.
Good
Wow.
deal.
it was great. Been great ever
That's
since.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you touched on, you had that conversation with your wife. A lot of people don't realize how the gospel music personalities have to have a spouse at home, a support system that
Oh yeah,
believes in what you're doing, because you're gone so much. And and it's usually, and Alan, you can attest to this, if something's going to break at home, it's going to break when you're gone.
absolutely.
So the spouse has to take care of making sure the washer is working, and kids get back and forth to school, and they're getting fed, and they're getting taken to school and picked up and all that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And you really have to have that. So I applaud you and your wife both for not. I mean, she may not be on the Kingsman bus or on the stage with you, but she's a vital part of what you
Yeah.
do,
Absolutely.
because you couldn't do, and you couldn't be effective on the stage calling
No.
the program and being sensitive to Holy Spirit if you got stuff going on at home and you can't be there to take care of it. So
Oh yeah.
I applaud you both for that. So
I've told young people and people that are in young marriages
yeah,
or fixing to get married, if the wife or spouse is not on board with it, don't do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Don't do it.
because you'll be miserable. You
Yeah.
both will. You both will.
It's a mental thing enough as it is when
Oh yeah.
things are going well.
Yes. Correct.
But it'll really mess with you
Yeah.
if
Absolutely.
you're not kind of where you need to be
Right.
family life.
Well, so not only are you the baritone and you're the MC, but you're heavily involved in SGMA.
Yes.
So kind of give me and Josh a little bit, and our listeners a little bit about what's your role at SGMA.
Well, I currently serve on the board of directors. I've been involved in some sort of capacity with the SGMA probably for near 20 years now, just doing something or other. I used to keep their website for them way back in the dark age. But uh, once I got back out on the road and got a little bit little more wind in my sails, I guess you say,
Yeah.
um, things kind of started coming together, and I wanted to. I've always felt like if you give to facets of this industry, then there will be facets of this industry that give to you.
That's true. That's true.
And so I wanted to continue kind of contributing
Yeah.
And so I joined the advisory board. Well, after you're on the advisory board for about 2 years, you got the board of directors. So, so I just kind of graduated from there, and I do a lot of different things. I mean, I'm part of sort of the voting process, whatever takes place.
Yeah.
You know, if there's some decision that needs to be made, but it's very dedicated to the fans and their relationship with the legends in our music.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the Hall of Fame and Pigeon Forge over the Biblical Times Theater, and I love that. I love getting to give these artists and be a part of giving these artists due recognition and just see what it means to them. I feel
Yes.
like I mean, everybody, fan, artist, board members, whatever, alike, plays a vital role. But
Yes.
I don't know, just to kind of get to see it from behind the scenes, it's a rewarding thing.
Absolutely.
Very rewarding.
Well, last episode we talked about Big Jim Hamill, and we kind of touched on how Hamill and Eldridge Fox and Eldridge, he was a baritone singer for many years. The Kingsmen owned the Kingsmen for several years, but he had the same mindset as you. He not only wanted to invest in the Kingsmen, but he wanted to invest in other groups. And I feel like that's kind of your heart too, with being in the SGMA, where you're not just promoting the Kingsmen, you're promoting this industry as a whole. And
I try to.
I think it's vital.
It's you can't be in this music and just like
Yeah.
you can't be in this music and just sort of I mean you can, but you're not going to be anywhere near as effective unless you kind of know what's going on.
Right.
You kind
That's
of
true.
know sort of the background of it. Any other field, any other professional field, you have to know things. You have to study things that you don't care about.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
If you love this music, then you need to know about it. You need to know where we came from. You need to know where we're going. You need to understand the fans. You need to understand the music. And if you don't make the effort to do that, then I hate to say it, you really probably don't need to be out here.
Well, I'm sure you have, but I know I've seen several singers who would come down the pike, and man, they wouldn't only know the songs that their group is singing. They didn't know anybody. They had never heard of so and so and classic gospel songs that every singer should know. And
Oh yeah.
What you and I have had that conversation. If you're in a quartet, there's certain songs every quartet singer should know. There's a handful of songs that if you're asked to get up and do something, you should be able to do that song. Or if you're a piano player, there's certain songs a piano player should know how to play in gospel music. That's kind of the test. But I've seen them very well known singers that had no clue about who so and so was and songs. They were not Kingsman material because Kingsman, we have the
kind of know it all.
Oh yeah. We were expected to know, literally hundreds of songs. We were expected to know that.
I'll tell you.
Call it any time,
Oh, I'll tell you. Our lead singer Cole Watson, he figured it out quick.
Oh yeah.
He figured it out quick. He said, I never know what Alan's going to call. He said, now I like it that way. He says, I like to not have to think about that. He says, but at the same time, he says, that leaves the ball in my court.
That's true.
To know as many Kingsman songs as humanly possible. And he has made the effort to do that.
Yeah. Well, and years ago, there was a piano player who he said, because he first started, and he said, I'll be honest, I don't know all the Kingsman songs. So he said, if you'll give me 3 songs a week to learn, he said, I'll go home and learn those 3 songs. It was Cody McVeigh. Cody spent a 3 years with the Kingsmen. Great young man, incredible arranger now.
Absolutely.
He's the go-to guy for orchestration in gospel music. But when he first came with us, I think he was like 18 years old, and he said, Brian, he said, if you'll give me 3 songs a week to learn, he said, I'll go home and learn them. And I would. Every week I'd give him 3 new songs to learn, and he would go back, and on his days home, he'd learn those songs. And because, same kind of thing, I said, if you're going to be a piano player, man, and he's made strides, since then,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's doing a great job. But so Josh, before you jumped on here, Josh and I were talking about Gerald Williams. We both are huge fans of Gerald Williams. So Josh, ask him what you was going to ask about Gerald Williams.
Yeah. Speaking of your time with the excuse me, Gerald Williams' group. I'm sorry, name ain't coming to me. How was it like traveling with him, plus getting to travel with another legend, as in Ray Dean Reese as well, to the most legendary bass singers and also the gospel music?
It's amazing in a lot of ways. The time that I spent with Gerald, and it wasn't long after I joined the Kingsmen, I would watch Ray and watch how he would communicate and handle things, and I think, boy, that's familiar.
Yeah.
Gerald was and still is always somebody that just he lives by example. Whatever advice he passes along is very matter of factly. And it reminds you to listen. It reminds you to pay attention to what's being said. You never know when something might kind of get slid in.
That's
That's
true.
important. And Gerald lived by example in so many ways, and not just as a singer, but as a human being. Right? Of course, same story. You learn just as much, if not more, about humanity than what
That's
you
true.
do
That's
about
true.
music. And really, that's as much a part of being in gospel music as anything.
Oh yeah. If not more, because
Absolutely.
singers come and go, but when you find somebody that can mentor you, and I believe Ray Dean has been a mentor to me for years, even though I stepped off the Kingsmen bus in 2011, he's still mentoring me even to this day. Gerald. I was telling Josh, Gerald always been one of my favorite bassers. One of my favorite features he ever had was off an album they did called "Get Happy," and it was "The Value of His Blood." I still listen to that song quite often. Love that little tune. Love that song.
Gerald had a knack for the kind of songs that not everybody can sing.
Yeah.
There, because some of those really, really deep, meaty, kind of songs. Gerald and Ray too, but they both had a way of making you just kind of lean in.
Oh yeah.
Ain't nobody. I could never sing "The Value of His Blood." There's no way that I could sing a lyric like that, and it be near as effective as Gerald singing it, or "Loving Shepherd, Gracious God,"
Yes.
or "The Count." I want my life to count for Jesus. Some of those songs. Uh, those meaty songs are that they're required for a singer that's walked through this life over a rather extensive period of time.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, you talked about "To Count for Jesus." Probably when I first came back in 2007, they had recorded that album. Good God, and it was on that album. And I heard that because the weeks prior to Joe coming back, I listened to that album quite often, and I thought, man, that's one of Ray's best features.
It's my favorite.
Yeah. So when I got
really
back on the Kingsman bus, man, I called that every night. I think that was one of Ray's greatest features. So,
when Ray started kind of dialing back some of his singing, and I knew that he was having some vocal issues and couldn't quite, as George Johnson would say, sort of unload the feature like he used to on the old Ship of Zion. And I knew he was a little hesitant on that, but I thought the best way to get Ray Dean out there is to bring him, let him talk, have sort of a little fireside chat, if you will, and then have him do "I Want My Life to Count for Jesus." And when he did that, people were crying. People were, they had the phones out. They, it was like watching, just like watching a professor give his magnum opus. And it was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, great song. So
probably, and I'll mention this too. One of his other features not too long ago, "Still I Climb." I love that. I think there's a video on YouTube of him doing it live, but I love that one as well too. Yeah,
I
think wrote by
really
Cindy Knight too, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, Sandy wrote it
Yeah.
just before both her husband and her daughter passed.
Yeah.
Over a very, very short span of time.
Yeah.
And Sandy had no idea what she was, obviously had no idea what she was fixing to go through, but the song ended up ministering to her.
Oh yeah.
And we were in the studio, and we had, and just a few days before we finally agreed with Jeff, just that there were so many good songs for the More the Story album that we turned down.
Yeah.
Some of them at the top of the charts.
Yeah.
So many good songs that we turned down, but Jeff said, we need to do Still I Climb for Sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got in the studio and started really just drinking in the lyrics of that song. And we really got pretty overcome.
Yeah.
Especially Jeff did. Because Jeff is so involved with Sandy, kind of helping her with the demos and work tape and whatnot.
Right.
But it was a very moving time. That's been one of my favorite songs on that record.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it helped me when my mom passed in April of 2021. I'd listen to that song every day after that. Yeah, I love that song.
Oh yeah. Some songs like that. That's proof that there's substance in some of the songs that, like Harold Reed said, he said, I love the songs that a lot of people are bored by.
Yeah.
And I said, I do too. There's just a lot of meat in them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, a lot of people usually lean toward the songs that the tenor's going to go high and the bass singer is going to hit a low note. But they kind of lean toward those songs. It's the songs that sometimes get overlooked, like you said, are the ones that God uses. You know, God uses everything. Of course, we know that. And he uses everything we do and say, or he can use everything we do and say to reach people. And so you just keep looking for good songs. And, you know, I've heard people say, oh, they're not writing songs anymore or good songs. Yeah, they are. They still are. God's still giving good songs. And that's so like when you're preparing for like an album, are you involved in choosing a lot of material?
Yes. I'm quite involved now. The Unstoppable God I was probably more involved on that one than anybody. We had only chosen about 2 or 3 songs.
Well,
by the time that task kind of fell to me.
Yeah.
And so that became my job, and I knew with singers like Cole Watson and then at the time Drew Laney coming in that were still very inexperienced and not aware of what their abilities are.
Yeah.
Of course, Cole has just blossomed incredibly.
Yes. Great singer.
And even a singer like Thomas Snally that was all about communicating lyrics. I knew I had to be very careful with songs I chose. I wanted songs that they could identify with.
Yes.
I wanted songs that would be kind of in their zone with it. Gerald said that Joe Roper with the Melody Boys always said no hot dogging.
Okay.
And hot dogging to Joe was too much high stuff, too much low stuff. Yeah. Everybody got to stay in their comfort zone. So I went kind of down the no hot dogging route with the Unstoppable God album.
Yeah.
And but it worked for the transition that we were in, I felt like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I went with. And of course, you know, I went with a lot of I love songs that where people will be kind of singing along before the song's even over.
Yeah.
There are a handful like that. Church of the Great I Am was one of those that's not on the Unstoppable.
Yeah.
Album. Soul Set Free, that's another one.
Yeah.
People are singing along with that before it's even over with.
Oh yeah.
And they did that with Just Stop By on My Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of songs.
Come on, help us out on this old Kingsmen classic right here. Well, my heart is set on that heavenly shore. My mind is stayed on Jesus, my Lord. Well, it seems I can hear that great trumpet song. I just stopped by on my way home. I just stopped by.
I'm always looking for.
Yeah.
So those are my favorites, but I'm not the best at it, but I'll get some here and there.
Well, I think you're doing a great job.
Yes.
The last 4 or 5 albums the Kingsmen have cut, and you've been there.
Yep.
I mean, they're stocked full of great songs and great arrangements. I mean, of course, if you get Jeff Collins involved, you're going to have some great arrangements. I mean, that guy is incredible, And so
it was funny when we had Chris there. Jeff, this group was a really high, singing harmony kind of group, what I like to call stupid high.
The fans love it, though. Yeah.
And Jeff loved it too. Loved it too. He took note of it because he pushed us on everything.
Yeah.
And Chris Bryant kept saying over and over, he'd say, "Boy, ain't nobody gonna want the soundtrack to this song." And that was always fun. Of course, then I went to the no hot dogging policy for a little while there, and so we may be moving some tracks for those, but nonetheless, it has been kind of neat to watch, particularly Cole and Brady. They're starting to get pretty good about song selection.
Yeah.
And they were much more active with what already been preparing. Starting it out.
Well, that's great because, like you said, for a singer to communicate a song, they have to be able to relate to it to a degree, and so, if you find a song, and there's been songs I've recorded that I thought, I really can't relate to that, but, I was asked to do it anyway. And so it was hard for me, not really hard to deliver the song, but it was a little more challenging. I'll put it that way. It was a little more challenging to deliver it. Yeah.
Well, there's probably two good ways. I tell people, live with it for a little bit. Live with the lyric for a little bit.
Yeah.
Apply it to your life. Another one that works is talk it.
Yeah.
Sit in the car and talk it out.
Yeah. That's true.
And see how effective you are with that. You can do that, then you can apply it to the way you sing.
Absolutely.
Very, very easily.
Yeah.
Well, one song I really love that you guys cut on a Christmas album, and I don't know when that came out. Was that
2022?
Okay.
Right at the end of 2022.
It was called the God Who Gives Himself Away.
Yeah.
Man, I heard that. I was driving. I had a concert down in Kentucky one night. I was just kind of flipping channels. It was after I was on my way home about 9 o'clock or so, and this song came on, and the orchestration started, and then you start singing, and I thought, what a song! Gosh, I love that song.
And you sing it all year long too, and we've done that.
Well, you didn't do it back in April when I came and saw you guys.
You should have requested it. Yeah.
You didn't do it that night, man.
Well,
So where'd you guys find that song? Who wrote that? If you can remember.
I know Kenna Turner West had a hand in it. I think Lee Black had a hand in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Jason Collier. I'm not sure. I could remember any other time except when you asked me about it. But
what a great song!
Oh man,
incredible song!
When it came to me, it came to us. I told Jenkins, I said I want to sing that because at that point I had fast songs, and I'd had kind of medium tempo songs.
Yeah.
And I'd had the calm kind of stuff like What the Blood Does.
Yeah.
I've not done a good kind of energetic power ballad in a while.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it fits Christmas. It fits any time of the year. I'd really love to do that. I feel like I can sink my teeth.
Yeah. Well, man, you evermore did, man. I mean, it was great. I love that song.
Yes.
Love that song.
Thank you. I do too.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So if you could, you travel the Melody Boys, and you've been around gospel music all these years, and you've always been kind of a quartet guy. If you could put together a dream quartet of anybody past, they could be, if you could go back in time and get on a time machine and go back, and you could handpick 3 other singers and maybe even a piano player.
Yeah.
Who would you grab and just say, okay, I've got one shot to sing one song. Who's going to be in my dream quartet?
I'm gonna told you I hated this question, didn't I?
No,
No, nobody did. But you're not
I'll
going to make
answer.
anybody mad. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah, that's
No,
right.
let's see. As far as a bass singer, I'm just gonna stick with some of today's singers.
Okay.
I mean, the perfect quartet. I don't care what anybody says. The perfect quartet was the Statesman with Chief Joy, Rosie, Jake, and Hovey.
Yes.
As good as it's gonna get right there.
Yeah.
So let's move to today. Some of today's singers now.
Okay.
One time I got to sing one song, and I got to pick the singers.
Yeah.
And the piano player at a concert that I put together over at Clayton, Georgia.
Yeah.
And you find on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I had Will Lane singing bass, had Jeff Wisnett singing baritone.
Wow. Okay.
Jonathan Price, Lefebvre Quartet now.
Yes.
Singing the tenor.
Yeah.
Brian Elliott played the piano, and I sang the lead.
Yes.
Wow.
And we did What a Friend We Have in Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did the old Singing Americans arrangement
Yes.
of it. And I thought to myself right then and there, I thought, it don't get any better than this as far as a good scrap iron group, because I'm going to tell you, Jeff Wisnick can nail down some baritone things.
Man.
I don't know if I wasn't the weakest link in that bunch. I'm pretty sure I was.
And we can find that on YouTube?
Yes, you can find it on YouTube. North Georgia Sing. I don't even know what I called it.
Okay.
I uploaded it when I was with the GCMA concerts.
Okay.
But it's on there somewhere.
Well, tell you what, send us the link sometime in the next couple of days.
Yeah,
we'll put it on the Behind the Crown podcast Facebook page. We'll post that.
Oh, I thought it was pretty good. That was pretty good.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I liked all those guys. Will's a great singer.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of young George Yance on a few tones, and of course Jonathan Price is an amazing tenor. I mean, he's
you put those guys in a group together, and those guys understand that a quartet is a unit.
Yeah.
They know how to make the quartet the star, and they're all star singers themselves.
That's true. They are.
But I feel like I've already gotten to do that. That's
pretty cool.
Pretty neat.
Pretty cool. So tell me who's your, I last week I told everybody, or might have been the week before, or whatever. My favorite Kingsmen lineup is the Chattanooga bunch.
Yeah.
Is Ernie and Hamill and Squire, and of course Ray Dean. And so who's your favorite Kingsmen lineup?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to go right along with you on that lineup.
Okay.
I've got another one kind of behind it, and I'll go into that in a minute. But the lineup with Ray, Squire, Hamill, and Ernie, I mean, I've listened to even some of these little, amateur recorded concerts of these guys.
Yeah.
And it was, if they ever had an off night, I wouldn't know it. I mean, they were, Hamill never applied the precision of some of his predecessor to the singing, but he didn't have to.
True. That's true.
It was such a wall of sound, so big, so full throttle.
It was, man.
That it didn't matter what they sang, whether it would be, say, a prayer for me, or traveling home, or just God leads his dear children along.
Yeah.
That there's a video of that somewhere. They just, I made a covenant with my Lord, whatever.
Oh yeah.
They could just hit a home run every single time, no matter what they sang. But now I grew up with this other lineup though, and that's lineup with Brian Hudson, Jerry Martin, Ray Dean Reese, Parker Jonathan, Andrew Ishii, Randy Miller, and Jason Self, and either Greg or Brandon.
My favorite.
Playing the drums. The I Will album is
Shelter.
Shelter, proven time and time again, and even the Good News album.
Yes.
Crawford on it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just that's a stretch of time right there of music that just that was really what made me fall in love with the Kingsmen.
Yeah. Wow.
Me too.
And that's the truth, because I didn't really get around to the older material until afterwards, because I was a teenager.
Gotcha.
So that was where I really fell in love with it.
Wow.
Because
awesome.
it was not only was it slick and modern, but it was just wham bam traditional.
Yeah.
It was old school. But with a new approach.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And especially the I Will album. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
So that really made me go back and listen.
That's awesome.
Y'all are right up there with that.
Man, I appreciate that. I really do. I had one night Joseph Habedank come up to me and he said, "Man, when I was 13, I'd get out the Kingsmen albums and listen to them." And I'm like, "Oh man, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Make me feel really old, but I appreciate that. I do. I know, looking back, like I said, those guys, the 70s guys, and right behind those four would be when Squire left and they put Wayne in Wayne Maynard singing baritone. Then that was my second favorite, because the Live Naturally, and man, that was just, it was just on fire. Blood and, I hate to say the word blood and guts, but blood and guts singing. That was kind of, I just loved that.
Take no prisoners.
Taking no prisoners, man. If your lungs are on the front row, you just keep singing. Well, okay, so I purchased your book. You're also you're a writer. You're a singer and MC. Okay, before we get to your book, you've been the MC for a couple years now. Do you have maybe an influence? Is there somebody you like to listen to, or are you just kind of making your own way with? For me, it was, I had Hamill. Because when I was coming back in 2007, Ray Dean asked me the question, and when we were in his vehicle, he said, "Cousin, could you MC like Jim Hamill?" I said, "Ray, nobody can." And I said, "But I can MC like me." My first 2 or 3 months MCing, it was terrible, dude. I was trying to talk too fast. I couldn't slow down, and I was stumbling over my words. And I finally got in my groove.
I still do that.
And that just happens. Especially when you're trying to think ahead while you're singing. Okay, I know after this song is over, I'm going to have to say something, blah blah blah. Introduce the guys and make it fresh. But one night we were in Springfield, Missouri, and Michael Booth came up to me and he said, "Man, you're doing a great job MCing." He said, "It's like sitting in my living room watching you MC." And I took that as a compliment. So I said, the more I do this, the more I get comfortable. So for you, being the MC of the Kingsmen, a legendary group, do you have like somebody that influences you when it comes to MCing?
Really, more than anybody, it'd be George Johnson.
Okay.
And it's not so much the funny stuff as much as George could just be very casual.
Yeah.
and very much of a conversation style of emceeing, and even almost a little bit transparent with people, even though it might have been something that he said just last night.
Right.
He just made you feel like he was talking to each person
Yes.
individually.
I agree. I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
I pull out. I think a lot of people probably think that Hamill is my biggest influence because I do pull out a lot of those Jim Hamill things, but the energy behind the Kingsmen and the audience kind of begs for it a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
If that crowd's screaming and hollering, then you can't hardly not say I can't hear you or something like that. Yeah.
That's true.
So it just kind of begs for it. It begs for it. But the where I really have drawn from it is through George.
Wow.
Just to try and just be plain. And not be too worried about being too grandiose with my words. Just be plain.
Yeah. I think there's a place for that when you're emceeing and when you're transparent, because people can read through a lot of fakeness and they see a lot of fakeness, and it doesn't take them long to see, okay, this guy's being a little fake here, or
Yes.
But I also talking about Jan.
Neil Enlow with the Couriers.
Yeah.
Told me. That's three other guys, particularly Neil and Phil Enlow, have said some stuff to me, and Dwayne Nicholson too, for that matter. But they probably told me more formally. But Neil, the neatest thing Neil said, he said, never assume you're smarter than your audience.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
that's great advice.
It really is. It really don't ever give yourself more credit than you deserve. And so that's something I've always tried to.
Well, for me, me and Yvonne, we're out traveling, and one thing I learned from George Johnson that I'm still doing, I read somewhere Ernie Haas was doing an interview or something. They said Johnson would write down after the concert. He had a little book that he kept on the bus, and he'd write down the jokes that he told that night on stage.
Yeah.
So he would, when they would go back next year, he wouldn't tell the same jokes again.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's pretty smart. So I do that. I mean, if I tell a story, or if I tell a funny thing about my grandkids or about me or something, or about, whatever, I write it down after the concert. That way I know when I go back to that church next year, I won't be telling the same joke. Oh, he told that joke last year, so I want to keep it fresh. And so I always write down things like that. So that was one thing I took from George Johnson. He did that. I think it's pretty cool. That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
And I think that was a Statler Brothers thing too, if I remember reading their book. And one thing I always try to keep a mental note of is the first song we sing.
Yeah.
I try not to repeat too much the same opening song.
Right.
And because every now and then I'll think, well, the energy in here is kind of it's going to have to kind of build it a little bit slowly. Maybe we ought to open it with something like The Next Cloud that kind of builds. But then I'll stop and think, no, I think I did that the last time we were here, so I'm going to have to do something like That's All I Need or whatever. And then sometimes I'll think, okay, last year I opened with Streets When My Feet Touch the Streets of Gold, and there was about 3 seconds of silence when we finished the song, and then polite applause. So I'm like, okay, we'll do The Next Cloud tonight. And
There's a funny thing that for me, I love it when a quartet or a group walks out, the very first song. I like it when they sing something, they're all singing together. I don't like now maybe the second verse, it might be a solo, but I like when you walk out, the first song is something everybody sings together. And you do that for a lot of reasons. First of all, George Amon Webster, another, cathedral member, George Younts, student of George Younts. When I was with Heartland, we would walk out and sing something about that name. Where it was just everybody singing together. It first shows your audience you can sing. Second of all, for sound, you can hear everybody. Okay, I can hear everybody, the blend. And you can kind of read the audience by something light and easy. Everybody sings together. There's no big solo anywhere. I just think that and you guys, the times I have seen you guys have done that. You walk out and you're singing something together, and even if it's and you got to have that diversity.
Yep.
And
Oh yeah.
I think your guys are doing a great job putting your set list together.
Yeah.
I try to, we always try to do something all skate is what we refer to it.
Yeah.
The other thing, if you see us, the first 4 songs we sing are probably going to be familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
People, especially our audience, they like to hear familiarity.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But you have to sing new material.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you open with familiarity, I feel like that opens their ears, opens their minds
Right.
to our new stuff.
That's right.
Yes.
And
that's true.
So I feel like it's made our job a little easier when we
Oh yeah.
when we have gone into the new songs, Unstoppable God or Soul Set Free, Praying
Yeah.
Prodigal.
Because it tells your audience, it tells the Kingsman fan, oh, they're going to sing some songs I know tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You know, that's just like a worship service when you go into a church and they're introducing 4 new songs this week, the praise team, and they're going to sing 4 new songs you've never heard before in your life.
Drives me crazy.
And so you're gonna shut them off, right away.
Oh yeah. It drives me crazy when they're singing stuff that the congregation don't know and they're not engaged during the worship time.
Yes, correct.
And that's probably another reason that I do that is a congregation is open to a new song if they've sung about 2 or 3 that they already
That's true.
knew.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
That's right. Yep.
Well, Josh and I were talking about your book earlier, and I kind of touched on that. We kind of went down a rabbit hole on
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
But Josh and I, we love the book.
Mm-hmm.
And in case you don't have it, it's called Decades of Music, Decades of Memories, and it's 70 years of songs, stories, and moments from the Kingsmen. And if you don't have this book, Alan, kind of tell the listeners and everybody watching kind of what inspired the book. What inspired the book?
The first thing that happened was we were in Asheville and had a day off. I think we'd been in the studio, had a day off, and then we were singing at Hominy Valley with the Primitives.
Right.
So on my day off, I thought I want to go to Raymond McKinney's house. I got a lot of questions about the early days of the Kingsmen. There's so much about that early time that's at the time was not very clear.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I want to go and visit with him and get to know Miss Ruby. And of course, Raymond was just thrilled to death. And Ray had already been talking to me about writing a book. So I just wasn't too sure what the concept was going to be. And if you read the book, you can tell that I have about 30 different concepts all in one place. So I went to Raymond's house and I turned on my voice memo and just talked and let Raymond talk over about 2 different sessions. And not only that, Isaac Moore, the inspiration, stopped by.
Yeah.
And we had lunch with Raymond and Ruby, and I learned so much. Saw pictures and some of the pictures you see in the book.
Yeah.
And just had a blast that day. And I learned, even though I kind of knew it already, just how much it means to these people that from the past.
Yes.
That someone cares about what they did. I mean, Raymond was here at times that me and Isaac cared.
Yeah.
So I knew that I wanted to at least get his story out there in some shape, form, or fashion. I didn't even know really what I was going to do. So that was it was on paper. It was in pictures on my phone. It was on my voice note.
Yeah.
So about 2 years later, it was about a year later. We decided we want to come up with a new compilation set of old Kingsmen songs, the Decades set. We agreed that it'd be neat if we had a little booklet that we could sell with it, telling the stories behind the songs that we had on there, why we chose them for the set, the backstories behind them, and that these are that some of these songs are not just hits. Some of these were forgotten gems.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so we put some of those on there. So I started compiling those. From there, we started with the Unstoppable God album. I thought, well, I'll go ahead and just tell the backstories behind these songs.
Yeah.
And then Brandon and I got to talking, and we agreed that it'd be cool to tell some more stories. So I thought, well, I'll get the Victory Shout album, the Battle Cry album, the More the Story album, and the Christmas album.
Yeah.
And so I started on those. And then we were starting to put together another Decades set because that first one did so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 39 songs, more songs that I had to put into that. So it turned into a 2-year process.
Wow.
And but it to get to put it all in, and David, I gave David Murray
Yeah.
a lot of the information. I think I may have took a picture of the little piece of paper that Raymond and Ruby had written stuff down on. I can't remember how I did it, but I sent him a bunch of info. David's a great writer too.
Yeah.
And so he put it all on. He put it all down, and it was so good. I was like, I'm not going to even change this. I'm just going to put this in the book as is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So left that in there like it was. But all these things combined together, and then the discography too, because I realized that discography itself can tell a lot of the history. So all that finally came together, and I finally said, I'm done.
Yeah.
That's it. No more. We got to hit a stopping point here.
Yeah.
So that ended up being the first Decades book, and believe it or not, I am starting another one.
Yeah.
Another one.
And,
Okay.
another Decades book. So so it may take me another couple of years. We'll see.
Well, when you guys were in the Cincinnati area back in April, and I came and saw you guys, and you gave me the book, and man, I read it cover to cover at least a couple times, and because there's things about the Kingsmen that I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just, to me, I love backstories behind songs.
Yes.
I love I've been a fan of not only the Kingsmen but gospel music as a whole, and hearing kind of what you talked about earlier about the history of this music. But I found out some stuff in the book that I didn't have a clue about, and it's pretty awesome to see it all. And I'm ready for the next book. So if somebody wants to order the book, how do they go about doing that?
Best place to do it is Amazon.
Okay.
I've just been doing that, sending everybody to Amazon, or they can come see us in concert, and hopefully I'll have it with me. It's amazing. But like one night I sold every single one that I had.
Wow.
A box that I had brought with me, and then there's some nights I sell two. But the best way to do it, you can get it in a couple of days, go on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's called Decades of Music, Decades of Memories, 70 Years of Songs, Stories, and Moments from the Kingsmen, Volume 1. Yes. It's pretty awesome. That's right. A lot of great pictures in there. You got one lead singer in there that's got some pretty cool hair and naturally dark back in the day. And
got a lot of different sets of hair in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day when I think that it was a recording we did at the Quartet Convention, like 3 different years. It was a video we put out,
Oh, yeah.
And every song, my hair is a different color. It goes from chestnut brown, as Harold Reed would call it, chestnut brown. Then the next song is coal black, and the next song is a little bit lighter. And I'm thinking, and so I look back on those days, and I look at Yvonne, my wife. She'll say, "I tried to tell you. Just let it go, let it go." And I said, "Well, it's every song's a different color,
Goodness.
Well, one event we had Randy Miller with us.
Yeah.
And It was a 3-day event in Gadsden. It was the second big live concert that we did.
Yeah. Okay.
Randy came in. He was going to go. He was going to play for us on Thursday night. Go and do a revival service on Friday night, and then come back and do Saturday night.
Okay.
So Thursday night he came in. He had platinum blonde hair,
Okay.
and then on Saturday night he had dark brown hair in the same weekend.
Oh man.
Nobody said a
Well,
word until
well,
now.
that is funny.
Oh man.
Well, you know,
Goodness.
you talked about Randy a little bit, so give us a couple good funny Kingsman stories about
Yeah.
stuff that you can tell, because some of the stuff that goes on the bus you necessarily can't tell out loud, but do you have a couple funny stories you can share with everybody?
Oh my gracious. Man, I'm trying to think here because to do it, I've got a whole list of Ray Dean Reese stories.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you can give us a couple Ray stories.
Yeah.
Well, the funniest one that I can think of with Ray at the moment, because there's about 30 of them, but one of the funniest ones was at Seminole, Oklahoma.
Seminole, Oklahoma.
I've told this on another in another place, so if I'm doing the same thing again, for somebody forgive me, but we were Seminole, Oklahoma, and the promoter said you guys are going to be the last group.
Yeah.
And of course it went till about 11 o'clock, but he said we want to said if you got a patriotic song that you can do. We said well we have Land of the Free that Phil Cross
That's a great song. Yeah.
Great song. So we can do that. They said, all right. Said, when will be the right time to shoot off the fireworks?
Okay.
And we said, all right. So you're going to come to a bridge, and so you may disagree with what I said. All right, I still have the right to state my claim.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And then we'll go right back in the chorus. There's your time. That's the time to let them fireworks fly.
Got it.
So they said, all right, we're right behind. So last thing we sang that night, Jenkins set it up beautifully, and we start. Chris Bryant steps out to sing. He got out about 4 words. He went, "Come from every nation," and we hear. I've never heard more fireworks in my life.
Yeah.
Than what I heard going on over here. So and you know that part's really calm, really quiet verse.
Really,
you can't hear it for anything.
Yeah.
So and it didn't matter. I mean, because not only could you not hear what we were singing, Ray was on the very edge of the stage, looking out to his left, trying to see if he could get a look at fireworks. Wasn't singing a note. And
oh
so
man.
he was gone the rest of the song. So and I don't know how those fireworks lasted at least through the first chorus.
Wow.
At least they like they never got finished. But I wish, because Ray just bent over looking like this to his left.
I can just about imagine.
Yes. Oh yeah. So
oh man.
That's one of my favorite stories. Another one was Prodigal Son.
Okay.
Then he wrapped his arms around me and said, "Child, you're welcome home."
Yeah.
It got to about where it was a guessing game for Ray.
What he was going to say.
What he was going to say. One day we were in Branson at Silver Dollar City, and Ray sang a line that he had never sung before. He sang my line. I will gladly be a servant if it'll take me back again. But out in down in the deep part, low country part of South Carolina, Ray sang, "Father, I can't make it on my own. I did rise and go back to my father." Ray took a part from the second verse that that did not match up at all. And I did arise and go back to my father's house. In my father's arms, I wound up nearly dead. And
Oh man.
I was
Yeah, you're
done.
done. You're done. Stick a
I was
fork in
done.
me. I'm done.
Yeah, I wasn't. I don't know if I even knew my name the rest of that song.
Man.
It was over for me. But
Oh my gosh, that's funny, man.
Goodness.
That's funny. Yeah, and I could totally picture that too.
oh yeah,
I could totally
absolutely.
picture him doing that.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
one night at the quartet convention. The last, it wasn't this past one, but the one before.
Okay.
Ray had started to just stay on the bus. He didn't want to get off the bus. He wanted to stay on the bus watch Gunsmoke for those last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
So he got out of singing. He wasn't singing very much. And but I told Ray, I said, I want you to do. I want my life to count for Jesus at Quartet.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, we'll do that. So so about 2 weeks before the quartet convention, I started saying, Ray, why don't you come in tonight? Let's get you used to that song again. We've had enough time to forget it.
Yeah.
Let's get you used to that. I'll do it tomorrow night, cousin. Next time, I'll do it tomorrow night, cousin. Next, let's just wait till next week, cousin. So just kept on going like that. Sure enough, he did not sing it until quartet convention.
Wow.
So I called Ray onto the stage. It's a beautiful moment. We're getting to Ray's feature. The first words inside my heart, there burns a question. We get to the start of that second verse, and I said, and I had to kind of count Ray off a little bit too.
Yeah.
And Ray starts with, I want to leave this world with riches.
With Bridget?
With riches. I want to leave this world with riches. Brandon said he could hear it from the back of the auditorium at the sound booth. Me saying, "What was I placed?" When we finished that, when we finished that, and Ray stepped back to take a bow, I said, "Well, live album or no live album, Ray?"
Ray, there you go.
Ray said, "Live album or no live album, cousin."
Oh boy!
Oh my
goodness!
Ray Dean, he is so funny. He doesn't mean to be funny, but he just is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He just
He's
can't
the funniest human being I've ever been with.
Oh my gosh, yeah. He did some crazy things. One night we would do Beautiful Home, and we would do it before we encore it. He'd say something about, because me and Phil were, me and Phil and Harold Reed, or me and Crawford and Harold would kind of do the I know I did it one Sunday, that little thing. Yeah. He would always say something about the girls over here, my girls thing over here. So he meant to call us Gladys Knight and the Pimps. But he said Gladys Knight and the Pimps one night. and none of us, the three of us kind of stood there, and we was hoping and praying nobody heard him say pimp instead of pips, P-I-P-S. So we just kind of looked forward and thinking, just hit the track, let's go, let's just sing.
I'll tell one more. We were in West Virginia, Vienna, West Virginia. We always go up there about every year.
Yeah.
And it was just after the pandemic, and we were telling Jenkins had a way of setting up the song "The Wind and Waves Still Know" by kind of saying what all we did during the pandemic.
Right.
And one of his, and he had a kind of a joke about Ray, saying Ray did all the hedge trimming and the grass cutting that he could get done in his yard. So he got bored and decided he'd start working on his neighbor's yard. And he got a nice letter from the city of Asheville about it too. And he said, what was it called? And Ray was supposed to say cease and desist. But on this night, he said He said, Ray got a nice letter from the city of Asheville. I said, what was that letter, Ray? Ray said, cease and incest.
Oh,
Oh no.
that's what he said, preacher.
That's what he said right there.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. I can imagine you all would just climb under the front row. Just
Oh.
climb under the front row and
So many nights, because Ray always he'd say, cousin, you my sidekick. You stand next to me and sing. You my sidekick. So just remember that you my sidekick. And what that really meant was, it was my job to keep Ray focused.
Yeah.
Many times there'd be a feature over here, Jenkins or Brian or something, and Ray'd be trying to whisper something in my ear. I think it was that same night. Ray was in a rare mood that night. I finally physically turned him toward the audience and I said, sing. And
Yeah, he whispers like he was raised in a sawmill.
Yes, he does.
He can't whisper very good, So.
No, he can't. And there's a whole set of stories that I can't tell related to that.
I guarantee you. Well, Alan, hey,
Oh man.
real quick, what is we talked about Ray Dean, we talked about the legacy of the Kingsmen and kind of, but give us everybody on Behind the Crown podcast, give us an idea of what the future looks like for you guys. I mean, I know at the current recording, you guys are still looking for a tenor. We know that, still looking for a tenor to fill that void, but God always brings the right man along, and
Absolutely.
I believe that God's going to bring the right man. So, but what is now y'all are also working on an album.
Yes.
It's the 70th anniversary. Is that right?
Yes, it's going to be a 70th anniversary album. And the tenor situation, we're not in a hurry.
Yeah.
We're not in a hurry at all. We are just kind of taking our time to pray and talk with these people, and we want to find somebody.
Yes.
Not just a great singer, but someone that's like-minded and that understands what he's getting into here. Because anytime you get anything music related, you got a whole package of different things. But so we're you just don't want to rush something like this, in my opinion. So we're very blessed that we have a good Rolodex of people to help us out. But yes, we are working on a 70th anniversary album that's going to be, at the moment, 5 brand new songs.
Okay.
5 old hits.
Okay.
A Squire song that we've never done.
Okay.
And then a hymn of the church. And Roger Talley is producing it.
Oh,
So and we got some fresh people in the studio, and some old faces in the studio, and well, Roger Fortner's not played on a Kingsman album in a while, and him and Eli both came in, and traded off a lot of licks in the studio. Of course, we had David Johnson, we had Tony Kreisman, one that's never played on a Kingsman album, Tim Parton. He played the piano in here, and boy, it's just giving a fresh approach to everything. So we're really getting into this 70th anniversary thing. There's also a documentary in the works.
Wow. Okay.
We've got a friend of ours that is from down in Alabama that has already gotten started on it. And so we're really excited about the documentary that's going to be put out, and he's actually going to be with us this week. I think he's going to be with us singing the Smokies, playing bass guitar for us. So he'll be in Memphis and singing the Smokies, playing the bass. So I'm really excited about that, the documentary, and so we're doing some things that a little different. And and I'm going to try and come up with some things to do for our concerts. I hope that I know some have already said, "What can we do?" We want to do something special for the 70th anniversary. A lot of promoters have already said to me. I said, "Well, I'll meet you part way. I'll come up with some stuff. You'll kind of kind of
Yeah,
have us.
yeah.
If you'll book us, then we'll work on these things.
That's
So,
great.
so we're really excited. Things are coming together. Things are staying strong. Cole and Brady and myself, Brandon. It's just a good unit. It seems like things are just we've gotten even closer in recent months, and we just feel God's hand on what we're doing.
That's
We
awesome.
feel a like-mindedness with each other that's really unlike anything I've seen in my career.
Yes, that's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
it's
Yeah,
very
because
exciting.
most people, most of the fans, they see you for the hour or hour and a half or 2 hours you're on the platform. They don't see the other 20 some hours where you've got to get along with these guys. And
Oh yeah,
when you're blessed to be able to travel on a bus and all the guys get along, you're friends, and
yes,
you're on the same team. That's one thing that was always instilled in me from my first tenure with the Kingsmen. We are a team, and we root for each other. We're pulling for one another, and our philosophy was, hey, as long as we hit a home run, we don't care who's batting.
Yeah.
We're a
that's it.
team. We're gonna work together. We're gonna support one another, and that makes it. You're gone 200 plus days a year, man. You got to have that. If you've got
Oh yeah,
conflict with the guys that you're traveling with, because you not only you work with them, you live with them.
oh yeah,
They're on the bus with
Yeah.
you and eating with lunch with you, and hearing every conversation you have on the cell phone with your family. You've got to have that camaraderie. And the Kingsmen, in my opinion, as far as long as I've known the group and know they've always had that. They've had that camaraderie, and
oh yeah.
I feel God's got the tenor out there that he wants for the group, and like you
Had a
said,
lot reach out to us, and that's a thrill.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
I
oh
can
yeah,
remember when we needed a tenor a few years ago. I really wondered where were we
yeah,
going to find one,
Yeah.
yeah,
but there's a generation of gospel singers and gospel fans that is coming around
yeah.
that we did not have till just the last
Mm-hmm.
couple years.
Yep.
I agree
And
with that. I agree with that.
and
Yeah.
we've even had a couple of young men filling in with us. And I've stood on stage and realized that I'm the oldest one on the stage.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's bothered me just a little bit.
Now, how old are you, Alan?
42.
42.
Now you look 62, but you're only
Thank you.
42,
Wow.
Thank
right?
you.
Wow. Wow.
From the abundance of the heart, the
I'm
mouth
teasing.
speaks.
I'm
Yes.
teasing.
Oh, mm, goodness.
Well, Josh, what do you think? I mean, you have any questions for Alan tonight, Josh?
Well, somebody posted on Facebook, and you probably seen it, but we better ask it because I don't want to cause no strife on the Kingsman bus, and I don't want to be outed by no member. I want to be in good standing with the guys. But he said, why won't Alan let a particular 20-year-old bass singer sing tenor on occasion when he doesn't let this said
That'd be
bass
stupid.
singer sing tenor and said bass singer gets sad? What could he do to make that up to said bass singer who is theoretically sad?
Theoretically sad.
That's a lot of words there.
That is that's very wordy. Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
Very
wordy.
intelligent.
Well,
Yeah.
well, stop and think about. It'd only be someone about 20 years old that would come up with the phrase theoretically sad.
Yeah, that's right.
true. Yes. Yeah.
This boy,
Uh,
I've gone from a man in his second childhood at the bass position to someone just barely in his first childhood.
That
Um,
that's true.
That's a good
That
way
is
to
true.
put it. Yeah.
we were, and there's a story behind that too. We were in Alabama just a few days ago,
Yeah.
and the fill-in that we had that week wasn't able to go, and so we had lined up another one, but he had to be back home on Sunday.
Okay.
And so Bob Sellers, God
Yeah.
bless Bob Sellers, came up from a morning service, showed up with about 5 minutes to spare, no rehearsal, walked on stage and sang a part with us that he had never sung before.
I got to find
Yeah,
video
that
of this.
sounds
If
like
there's
it,
some out
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Bob.
And he nailed it too. But before then, we were concerned, are we going to be a trio with a bass singer? And Brady kept saying, well, I'll just sing the tenor part. I'll just sing the tenor part. And I'm like, Brady, that's not what we're paying you to do.
No.
I don't care if you can sing in a 5-octave range. You've got to, if you're the bass singer, you're going to sing the bass.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of whatever we can do to make it work. But thank God Bob Steller's jumping in, and Bob's a great singer for one.
He is.
Very versatile.
Yeah.
And good quartet, man.
Yeah.
The only thing about Bob, you've never seen Nicolas Cage and Bob Sellers in the same place.
Yep.
Very true.
I think secretly Bob Sellers really is Nicolas Cage. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Any other questions on Facebook, Josh?
One other gentleman, let me pull that back up. He mentioned something about some of the older songs. I know I kid with you sometimes about doing Mayday, but anyways, we'll leave that alone. He said, this is John Ike. He said, I'm 27 years old, have been a huge fan of the Kingsmen since I've been about 8 years old. I started listening to all the albums on YouTube, and I wonder if you all could bring back a song from the 60s and 70s. One like My Brother, Where Are You Heading from the Land of Sky album. And I wouldn't stop now if I could.
Yeah.
From Made News in Heaven.
Oh, My Brother, Where Are You Heading? That comes from the mid-60s here. And, the oldest song that we sing is So High.
Yeah.
Which is actually before, that dates back to 1968 or 9.
Yeah.
The Daddy Sang Bass album, Calvin Runyon sings it.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite from the early years, and it's one of them spirituals, was the song New Jerusalem.
Yeah.
With Reese McKinney. In the New Jerusalem, I got no. So Reese, I think people are just now coming to the realization through the book, a new generation anyway.
Yeah.
Through the book and through the hopefully through the streaming and the CD of with the older group.
Yeah.
This really was a gifted bass.
Yeah. Another song, This Is a Mean World. Yeah.
Oh yeah, This Is a Mean World. His Eyes on the Sparrow.
Yeah.
A very gifted singer and gone way too young.
Way too young. Yeah.
In fact, and this is a different kind of, not really related, but if you look at the book, cover of the book, see two pictures. One is the McKinney brothers that became the Kingsmen from about 1953 or 4, something like that.
Right.
At the top. At the bottom is the Kingsmen from 1979.
Yeah.
At the bottom of that book, there's only one still living from 1979, and that's Brady and Reed.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
At the top of that book, 2 are still living.
Yeah.
Raymond and Everett McKinney.
Or Everett, yeah.
And then here's another weird piece. The other 2 brothers at the top died young.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lewis McKinney was killed in 1960, I think, in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
And then Reese was killed in 68 in a welding accident.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, to me, that's kind of fascinating. But the early Kingsmen from those early days, nobody will ever probably realize how gifted those guys were.
Right.
As a unit, they sang together for 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
most people would come up, especially in my days. They would come up. They would say the original Kingsmen. They were usually meaning Fox and Hamill. And I said, there was a Kingsman long before that. Long before those guys.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's kind of funny because there'll be one or two they'll come up and they're like, I remember the original Kingsman, and almost like bragging rights, And I'll say, oh, you mean like Lewis McKinney?
Yeah.
And then they'll stare at me like I have 3 heads. And I would encourage anybody to to give a list of whatever you can find of that early group, and you can hear about you hear three cuts
Yep.
On the decades 3 and 4, and you hear four of
Yes,
them on the
yes.
decades 1 and 2
Yeah.
of the early Kingsmen.
Wow.
It's something to listen to. It's neat,
That's good stuff.
and you don't even have to necessarily like that vintage style
Right.
Yeah.
so much, but understand where we came from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Understand, because there are pieces of that are all over what quartets these days do.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So,
That's true.
Yep.
That's true.
Right. Yes, sir. Yep.
Well, Josh, what do you think? That's a pretty good interview, wasn't
Very
it?
good. And I'll mention one other thing too. Being as you got one of your daughters there with you, I seen
yes, this is my daughter Evie.
yeah, I
Right.
seen the video or pictures on Facebook of her sister singing. Keep doing that. That's great stuff. Keep doing that.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
people. People say, how do we get young people in this music?
Yeah.
And the young people, when they hear it, they
And
like it.
Yeah, and do like the
They
Kingsman
do.
always done to me, was nice to me at the product table. Uh, they took at like they remembered who it was. Not knocking them, but if they didn't, but they always just made you feel like you was somebody when they was talking to you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh
That's
yeah,
true.
when the kids hear it, they like it, and that again goes, never sing smarter than your audience.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I don't know if I've ever been around a kid
yeah,
that didn't
Yeah.
really fall in
Once
love
they
with it.
hear it, once
Yep.
they're introduced to it, they like it.
Yep.
And in this professional kind of form, and we were talking about that. A group of us today were talking about that.
Mhm.
Me and I think Josh Singletary, he was one who kind of led that conversation. That a lot of people that don't really follow it,
Yeah,
they'll hear it and they'll be like, "We had no idea."
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. That's right.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
they love the low down bass, but they love the songs, their storytelling songs.
Yes. Yeah.
Evie loves Victory Shout.
Yeah.
They love I Just Stopped By on My Way Home.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
sang that. They got up and with us. They did. They want to do the little soft high part of Beautiful Home. They got up there and
Yeah.
did that with us one time.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
the kids want to do it. They
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
Gotta
And
encourage.
bring them to the con.
Yeah.
People say, "Well, I'm not going to bring them because they won't like it." Bring them and let them make that decision.
Yes.
They can make up their own mind.
Yep.
Right.
There's too many.
Right.
There's too many people trying to tell the kids this is what you like.
Yep.
Yes.
Why are you trying to do that? Because they're just going to rebel against it later anyway. But you let them make up their mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chances are it's going to stick with them.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Because that's the power of the gospel for one, not just the music, but the power of the gospel.
Yep.
They hear that. They hear the stories about Jesus and His love and how He
Yep.
forgives our sins and how He
Oh,
loves us unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's
They love the simple kids songs, but there's all kinds of kids that want to be like, I know a song like Just Stop By on My Way Home, or I know a song like Victory Shout.
Yep.
right.
Yep.
And they want you to realize they know a song that's got content
Yeah.
to it.
That's right.
More,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, something like Yes, Jesus Loved Me. It's profound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
When you think
Simple
about it.
but
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah.
But kids
Very
want a challenge,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
That's true.
That's right. That's exactly
true.
right. Yes.
Well, Alan, man, I
Alan, we
appreciate you
appreciate
taking the
you.
time
Yeah.
to talk this night.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Josh.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Like I said, we appreciate you. I appreciate what you do with the Kingsman. Great baritone voice, great MC work, just overall nice guy. And I love what you're doing for the Kingsman, pushing them forward. I know it's a lot of work, and I, as a fan, big fan of the King, I appreciate you doing that. Yeah.
Well, I thank you. I was a fan first. One of the first groups I ever heard.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, it was one of the first groups that my daddy.
Yeah.
My daddy was a teenager watching Bob Poole's Gospel Favorites
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the early '60s,
Yeah.
and has their first two records.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
so to come around to this is a full circle thing to be part of it.
Yeah.
And then to connect with people like like you, Josh, you just get it.
Yeah.
You understand. though you've not been out on the road like we are, you get it. The brotherhood that the Kingsmen alumni president have.
That's right.
And so many of these others.
Yep.
I've never had such a support system.
Yeah.
Professionally. And,
that's right.
That's very special.
Oh,
very
yeah.
special.
Well, like Josh said, you're doing a great job, man, and I appreciate your friendship and appreciate what you're doing with the Kingsmen. And man, I'm praying for you guys, praying that God will continue to use you and bring the tenor that you're needing for the group. And tell Ray and Brandon that we said hey, and hopefully our plan maybe to get Ray next week. We're kind of looking at maybe getting on here, interviewing him. We're gonna reach out to Raymond McKinney. We want to get him, and people like Johnny Perrick and Greg Fox and Tim Surratt and Chris Collins and Jerry Martin. What?
I'm blown away that you had me first.
Well, we wanted to really look ahead and the future of the Kingsmen. That's why we wanted to talk to you first. And and so we're going to go back and we're going to mix it up. Of course, we want to have Brady and we want to have Cole on here as well and talk to those guys. And I've got socks older than both of those guys, so.
And I'm older than both of them too. That's the weird thing. I see Kingsman now, and I'm older than two of the guys on stage. I said, "This ain't right."
Well, see, Josh, you're getting up there.
Yeah.
I am old enough to be my bass singer father.
That's like, wow. We'll just leave it at that. Wow.
That's saying
disturbing.
That's saying
And some people have asked me.
Oh.
Son singing bass.
Wow.
See?
I kid you not.
I can imagine.
And sometimes it feels that way when I get on that bus.
I'm sure it does.
Oh, mercy, goodness gracious. Hey, Lord have mercy.
Well, Josh, you want to close this out, man?
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. This is another great episode of Behind the Crown podcast with your host, Josh Griffin and Brian Hudson, with our special guest, Mr. Alan Kendall of the Kingsmen. Stay tuned, listen for the next few episodes. We got some great things coming down the line, and also Alan's daughter, Miss Evie, as well. Got to have her on board as well. We just appreciate y'all so much. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank you, Alan. We'll see, man.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
What brilliant light, this night so dark. How great a love to bend so far. Who is this child upon the hay? The God who gives himself away. Earth and heaven stand amazed. Angels shout to bless his name. Saints will rise in awe to praise the God who gives himself away. The teacher speaks, the crowds draw close. Bread for the body and the soul. The blind are healed, the dead are raised. The God who gives himself away. Earth and heaven stand amazed. Angels shout to bless his name. Saints will rise in awe to praise the God who gives himself away. How dark the hill of Calvary, how red the blood he shed for me. My very sin there on display. The God who gives himself away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Behind the Crown podcast with your hosts, Brian Hudson and Josh Griffin. If you would, please like, rate, and share this episode. Join us again for another episode of the Behind the Crown podcast.